All right, so here's the way things are going now. They're going this way at Tennessee, and they're going this way across the board. And I'm not going to name which player this is, but there was a player that Tennessee took in as a transfer either last year or this year. And I know Caleb probably knows because we talked about it before. If you watch every show, you probably know who this is. But he went to one school and he got a $100,000 offer. He got to another school, got a $200,000 offer, and it goes. Now, don't worry about the numbers. I'm not using exact numbers. I'm just trying to make a point. And then you go to the next school, which in this case was Tennessee. And Tennessee was like, we can beat that. So they beat it, and he came to Tennessee. It wasn't about the girlfriend. It wasn't about the major that he might get. It was about pure hard cash. And who can blame him? I mean, I'm getting ready to send my son off to UMass. But I tell you what, if Georgia called and said, we'll pay him $300,000 a year to come here and study film instead of going to UMass, I can promise you my son is going to Athens. I mean, there's no question about it. So I don't begrudge any of these guys. And Steve Spurrier wants to say this. I think he's being matter of fact. I don't think he's complaining or whining like he was known to do. Caleb, I think it's just fact of the matter. As a matter of fact, I think Steve Spurrier would excel in this type of situation because it's more businesslike. Recruiting was a lot of butt kissing. That is not fun. And he did not enjoy having to kiss up to a 17-year-old who may or may not be a good player. And that showed as the talent began to fall off a little bit towards the end of his career. Not a lot, but a little bit. So I think Steve Spurrier would be great in this. I think Tennessee's great in this. Yeah, I think Steve Spurrier's right, but I think that's GBO time for the Vols. I think they should be very happy with the way this NIL is playing out.
What we're saying is NIL can be very friendly to, there's always the X's and O's versus Jimmy's and Joe's comments. NIL gives another advantage to coaches who like to just coach and be schematic and not worry about recruiting, which is, we heard this with Josh Heupel that he was this way. And you're right. Funny story with Steve Spurrier. I know the story. Y'all, Emmitt Smith was considering coming back for his senior year, which was Steve Spurrier's first year at Florida. And the reason Emmitt Smith left was because apparently Spurrier went to him and said, can you just tell me what you're going to do? Because I got to figure out what to do with my running backs in the depth chart. He didn't try to sell him or beg him to come back at all, which there was a little bit of Josh Heupel and Steve Spurrier, wasn't there, where he didn't care about his personnel. He knew he was going to beat you regardless of who he had. And I feel like Josh Heupel has that now.
Especially defensively. Yeah. And okay, so let me ask you this. With Steve Spurrier, let's say he's in his prime and it's rocking right now. Okay. You're Dante Thornton. Forget the money for a second. Would you go to Florida or would you go to Tennessee?
In the 90s?
Well, no, right now, but Steve Spurrier has established him. He's like 5 years deep in his Florida career. Okay.
So let's say Steve Spurrier's in his prime right now coaching at Florida and Josh Heupel's still at Tennessee. So
yes. That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Because
they're very similar in that they're based off reads, much like an option. In the passing game, they're based off reading the safety, both offenses in different ways. Boy, I don't know. I think it would simply come down to personnel. I think who's the quarterback? Who are the other players? How close are you to competing? Taking money out of the equation. But I think it's 50-50, Heupel or Spurrier.
I mean, it is 50-50. At which point NIL is going to make the difference because it's now if it's 1995, this is crazy. I would have said go to Tennessee over Florida because I feel like Tennessee actually produced more NFL talent at receiver during that time. Even if you were going to put up godly numbers at Florida, I felt like Spurrier spread the ball around a lot more. You know what? As I'm talking out loud, Tennessee. Spurrier spread the ball around a lot more with his receivers. Spurrier, you know this. He was basically felt, I'm in Florida, get me 4 track stars. I'm going to get the track stars and spread them out. And we're not really going to prioritize the receivers, just who they're all going to beat their guy. That one safety is going to get beat. And whichever safety gets beat, we'll throw it to them. And that was his philosophy.